judges, and even the ladies that organise it all sitting over there calmly waiting to start. I think you'll all agree we had an amazing first start to the debate, two excellent teams, and I'm sure we're going to see more of the same. This isn't the big debate for first and second place. For Queens here, we have Sam Long, Aina and Alexandra. Welcome. And for King Richard, Daisy and Marek and George. The subject for today is, the motion for today, which Queens are debating for and King Richard against, are the following. In our contemporary society, art has lost its social, economic and political influence. I repeat that, in our contemporary society, art has lost its social, economic and political influence. With that, over to timekeeper David, in your good hands.
Kate, thank you very much. Finalists, welcome and huge congratulations getting to this point. We'll begin shortly. Just one quick reminder, you know very well how this goes, but just the 15-second rule on points of information. Good luck. Let's go. First speaker, please.
It's almost Christmas, my personal favourite time of the year. But some children, it's not. Some children are on the streets, cold, forgotten, isolated, scared. If you had to donate your money to a charity to help these children, would this colourful but lacking emotion piece of art convince you to donate? Or would a social influencer convince you to donate who describes these children as sad, scared, and terrified? I think we all know that art will not have the biggest influence on us anymore. Good morning, Chair, judges and spectators. My name is Alexandra, and here are my colleagues, Irina and Sam. Today, my team and I are arguing for the motion, in our contemporary society, art has lost its social, political and economic influence. My team and I have three very strong arguments. Firstly, I will be talking about the social influence. Secondly, Irina, the political influence. And finally, Sam, the economic influence. What actually is art? Art is not simply a painting or a drawing like the Mona Lisa. Art is so much more. It's debating, it's music, theatre, literature. Art is very broad. Art's influence on us, contemporary society, is when it shapes public opinion. It creates debates and arguments. It teaches us about politics. But art has lost its social, economic and political influence, and no longer does any of this. When I was younger, I used to go back to England for the holidays, and I used to see my grandparents. My granddad, every time, would always take me up to London as a treat, and he'd take me to art exhibitions. My God, I loved them. It became a tradition. It was our tradition, and I really did look forward to them. I can remember him pointing up to the paintings and saying how it had taught him politics, how it had shaped him emotionally, how it had helped him mentally, how it had socially influenced him. But he was from an older generation, and the motion states our contemporary society. As I got older, I looked around and I noticed people no longer looked at paintings and spoke about them.
Points of motion.
Except.
You mentioned that art is losing its influence, especially in contemporary society, but you just mentioned music being a form of art. And music's the most influential form of art we have. It's the most influential source of it's the most influence, it's where it most comes from, so how can you argue with that?
Music may have once had an influence on us, but in our contemporary society, when we scroll online, we don't really listen to what we're hearing. Music doesn't have the same grip on us, the same influence it had once upon a time. As I was saying, nowadays when I go to art galleries, I don't see people looking up and talking about the paintings. Instead, they simply go, see a painting, take a picture, off to Instagram. People don't go to be socially influenced anymore. They go for likes, comments, and more followers, not social influence. Art has always been a passion of mine, so when it came to school, I always chose art. Last year, for my exam, I drew this piece. And I can't tell you the amount of hours I spent drawing it. And when I had finally finished, I was beyond pleased. And so next day I went to my friends who weren't doing art, and I showed them, and they said, well, it's okay, it's nothing special. Nothing special? What do you mean? So they showed me a 5-second video, 10-second video, 20-second video on TikTok of everyone else's art that looked just like mine. That proves that art no longer has a social influence because it wasn't anything special. The opposing team may of course argue that social media actually promotes art, but let me tell you something, it doesn't, because we scroll absent-mindedly. We don't look at what we're seeing, we don't notice, we're not influenced. Debating, what we are doing today, has always been an art, but beyond this room, no one will be influenced anymore. Thank you for listening.
Let's go back in time to the 14th of November, 1960. At the gate of the newly desegregated William Franz Elementary School in New Orleans, 6-year-old Ruby Bridges walks past a howling white mob, spitting racial hate and throwing tomatoes at her on her first day in a previously all-white school. At the time, nothing really changed, except that white folk withdrew their kids from the class and refused to let them return while Ruby was still there. Another blind eye turned by society until the artist Norman Rockwell published an illustration of Ruby's experience in the Look magazine called "The Problem We All Live With." Millions of white middle-class Americans who had never seen segregation up close suddenly had Ruby's courage and the ugliness of racism staring at them over breakfast. Mothers in Ohio wept into their coffee. Fathers in Michigan couldn't meet their child's eyes.
Point of information. Your example is from 1960. The debate motion states contemporary society, and 1960 was from last century.
Thank you for your question. Right now I'm covering the past, but I will later be covering in our contemporary society. I'm just referring the two. Within months, the moral centre of gravity in the USA had shifted. A nation that had always turned their heads finally looked, and the Civil Rights Act became inevitable. One image, one child, one wound the country could no longer ignore, and a magnificent example of how art can provoke society to reconsider, to change, to become better. Esteemed judges, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen, today we are thrilled to be here in the final to argue that in our contemporary society, art has not lost its social, economic and political influence. It has simply evolved its methods. My name is Daisy, and I'll begin by evaluating how art continues to dominate socially. Then Marek will demonstrate how and why its economical influence is not waning. Finally, George will prove how art has more political power now than ever before. Before we go any further, I would like to share our team's interpretation of the term art. According to the Britannica Dictionary, art is something that is created with imagination and skill and that is beautiful, or that expresses important ideas or feelings. Contemporary society refers to the time in which we live in, specifically since the end of World War II. When we hear music created in response to mental health crisis, or read literature that captures the nuances of the immigrant experience, we are engaging with art that is actively performing its social duty, shaping our collective empathy, and challenging the status quo. Beyond public rules, art in traditional media continues to hold a mirror to society, reflecting our deepest struggles and aspirations. This was well articulated by the pianist, singer, and activist Nina Simone. She famously declared, "An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times." We must recognise that the digital age has democratised art and amplified its influence. Social media platforms are now a vast canvas for graphic design, short-form videos, and digital illustration. Memes have replaced
Points
Bob
of
Dylan.
information.
Yeah.
You use social media an example. However, on social media, most of the content and art that we face is short form and short-lived. Therefore, we don't get the chance to be impacted as strongly as we used to be.
Thank you for your question. But I'm saying that art comes in many forms, and so short-form videos are a form of art. They aren't just, no matter how short they are, they're still a form of art. Memes have replaced Bob Dylan as the new folk art. Art has escaped its traditional forms, and its influence reaches almost every corner of humanity. In our contemporary society, art is the mother who stitches her murdered son's name into a quilt and hangs it where the police cannot tear it down. Art is every shaky voice memo, every tear-streaked selfie that says, "You will remember me." For 64,000 years, ever since the Neanderthals made their first deliberate marks on the cave wall, art has been humanity's heartbeat made visible. The red handprint that said, "I was there," the ochre line that taught us to fear, the tiny black girl who made an entire nation finally feel the weight of its shame. Thank you.
Political art has always been people's voice, speaking truth when words couldn't. In times of distress, communities chose to endure together, using art as a space through which they could challenge their government. However, today, political power no longer flows through art. It has become simply a commercial tool, a hollow weapon used by politicians. Good morning, honorable judges and members of the opposing team. My name is Irina, and today I will demonstrate how art has lost its political influence in our contemporary society. Art requires depth, time, and most importantly, skill. The works of great painters, actors, and writers were influential precisely because they could shape collective emotion. But in our 21st century, these emotions are no longer shaped by these things. They're shaped by algorithms, systems which simply reward content that is quick, easy, and simplistic, the very kind we scroll through on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, as Alexandra has previously mentioned. Art has become too slow for a world dominated by fast content. Take as an example Picasso's masterpiece, Guernica. In 1937, the Spanish Republican government commissioned this painting to draw attention to the atrocities of the Spanish Civil War and raise funds for war relief.
point of information.
Except,
Earlier you mentioned that there are no current artists that create like emotion in the people. But how about Banksy creating influential murals overnight, appearing in different cities?
I didn't state that there's none. However, the motion states that influence is lost. Therefore, there is some influence. However, it has been lost. As I said, a replica of Picasso's masterpiece hangs in the United Nations headquarters nowadays, set to be a constant reminder of the devastating impacts of war. If that is the case, then why are there still more than 40 major conflicts unfolding around the world? Why do violations of international law continue? Why do countries pass resolutions they fail to uphold? UN uses it as a decoration, not direction. Except,
You've mentioned how the internet takes away the time spent on looking at certain art, but the internet's the biggest form of expressing art. Most art ever has been shown on the internet, and people would have to travel to see the art if it wasn't for the internet. So how come that isn't a massive influence?
the internet acts as a platform where you can access art. But again, we are arguing on the influence. And content that is short, content that does not have as much meaning, cannot influence us as it did before. Throughout both world wars, a simple placard had the power to send men to the front lines. Lord Kitchener's words, "Your country needs you," were enough to send 6 million men to fight for their country. But in our society, not even 240 pages of a personal war diary are enough to drive politicians to make change. This is the story of Yeva, a 12-year-old girl from Kharkiv whose life was destroyed on the day Russia launched its horrifying invasion on Ukraine. The conflict may be recent, but the story isn't. We've all heard about Anne Frank and her famous diary, the one that once fueled global talks about Nazi atrocities and human rights cases. Reading is no longer as influential as it once was. Research has shown that over the two last decades, reading rates have dropped by 40%. Voices like Yeva's have now been silenced, giving the power to corrupt politicians. So, protest movements may be a form of art. However, most of the movements you see, they are now becoming commercial tools. And the moment a symbol starts selling, it stops fighting. So, thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Judges, opposing team, and audience. I'd like to begin by talking about David. Which one? This one. Don't worry, I've given him a pair of Christmas underwear, so as not to offend anyone this morning. David provides the perfect example of how the economic power of art, both at the time Michelangelo created him and now. In 1501, the Opera del Duomo paid Michelangelo the equivalent of 300,000 euros to use his phenomenal gift on a long discarded, flawed block of marble. 4 years later, David was placed in the Piazza della Signora to symbolize Florentine freedom. As a result of Florence's commitment to supporting art, merchants, bankers, and princes came to do business, and trade exploded. The Medici Empire rose, and Florence became the richest, most powerful city-state in the whole of Europe. Fast forward to 2025, it now costs 16 euros to visit David, and in last year he had 2.15 million visitors. That's over 17 million euros worth of ticket sales, before you even count the hotels and the gelato. Isn't it incredible that 110,000 jobs exist because people still lose their minds over a 520-year-old guy made of marble? My name is Malik, and this morning I will build on my colleagues' points and argue that economically, art has a greater than ever influence on our contemporary society. One of the most visible ways art stimulates the economy is through driving tourism and revitalizing neglected urban areas. An example of this is Bilbao. The city faced sharp economic crisis during the...
You talk about how tourism helps the economy, but how do you know that's not social media's influence rather than art's actual influence?
As I said in David, most people come to Florence to see the dome, which is art. Architecture is a form of art. And David, that brings countless amounts of money to the city and making it a better place to live in. And the city faced a sharp economic crisis during the 1980s, triggering a surge for new development and urban regeneration. After the successful opening of the Guggenheim Museum in 1997, the so-called Bilbao effect demonstrated how a single, architecturally significant cultural institution can transform an industrial city into a global cultural destination. This graph by Taylor and Francis shows the impact of the Guggenheim Museum from the year before it opened in 1996 to 2012. In 2024, the museum attracted over 1.3 million visitors, bringing great income to the Basque region. Now, let's explore the incredible wealth generated by the sale of art. According to a 2024 report in Art Price, the top 100 living artists sold over $1.8 billion at auction. Jean-Michel Basquiat's 1982 painting just sold for $72 million, 40 years after his death, still out-earning most hedge funds. Meanwhile, the global video game industry, combining pure art with code, just hit a whopping $250 billion in 2024. The notion that art exists solely outside the realm of commerce is a myth. The arts are deeply embedded in our economic framework. From jobs created by blockbusters and museum exhibitions to the revitalization of our city centres and cultural tourism, art is a powerful economic engine. Investing in art isn't just investing in our future and our culture. It's a smart economic strategy in our contemporary society. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we must reject the motion as art did not lose its economic power because it switched its beret for a beanie. Art is as influential now as it has ever been. Remember my friend David? He has been printing money for 5 centuries now and shows no sign of stopping. This is why we must conclude that the motion is not only wrong, it's financially illiterate. Thank you.
I want you to take a look at these 2 pieces of architectural art and think, what had a bigger influence on society? 1, the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, or 2, the addition of a new corporate skyscraper in Dubai. Good morning, esteemed judges and opposing team. My name is Samuel Long, and I will be the 3rd speaker for the motion. Today I'll be arguing that art has completely lost its economic impact. However, before I begin, I'd like to refute the opposing team's remarks. The first speaker talked about an example of art changing society in 1960. And as we just mentioned, 1960 is before our contemporary society. Furthermore, she mentioned that short-form videos are also a form of art. We don't deny this. There is art. Art is there. However, its influence is gone because it is drowned out. The short-form videos simply take up people's times. And this can be tied into the point of information for the team, where they mentioned a very famous artist, Banksy. Same goes with Banksy. I'm sure we all have seen his art, but its influence isn't really that impactful anymore. What a true example of impactful art used to be was think about propaganda. The propaganda back then of, we want you to go to the war. Did Banksy have the same power that the propaganda before could send millions of men to war? Except,
Earlier, you compared the pyramids of Giza to skyscrapers. Yes, skyscrapers are residential buildings, so wouldn't you have to compare the skyscrapers to the mud bricks that would have been built at the time of Egypt?
again, both are still architectural art. And I picked two large examples. You could also say that there are many, many more skyscrapers than before. But my argument, and my point of the argument, is to say that art now doesn't have the same influence as it did before. Because to say it has lost its influence, we need to look back. Art used to be a driver of economies, something that kingdoms and governments would prioritize their funding and rely on. In the 1500s, art helped become Florence, become one of Europe's key banking and trading centers. Its cultural prestige made the city attractive to elites and investors, with its primary exports being cultural and artistic goods. Same goes with Vienna. Vienna used to run on a music economy. Court theaters, church choirs, and opera houses created labor markets for composers, performers, and instrument makers. Music was the main way Vienna elites spent their leisure money. But the biggest economy the arts used to dominate were the things that we all visit. The pyramids, the palaces, the medieval churches. These are the arts that used to control economies. Ancient Egypt, for example, they committed 10% of their entire population for 20 years to build just one of those pyramids. Renaissance popes spent 30 to 50% of church revenues solely on art, and it went into making over 22,000 churches. Except,
you still talk about the pyramids of Giza. Doesn't that just show the influence it still has on to this day? That it's still being talked about, that it's still being influenced on our world.
today, the pyramids of Giza are a tourist attraction. Sure, it makes some money, it's good for their economy, but I want you guys to place yourself in the position of a person living in ancient Egypt. They have just created a massive tomb and religious structure that is what's driving. It's what the person next to you has their job for. It's what you're looking up to and believing in. But now it's just a tourist attraction. Both a loss in economic and social influence. And as I was saying, the projects like the pyramids and all these thousands of churches employed hundreds of thousands of architects, sculptors, and painters. But what is it nowadays? Nowadays, the global market is worth 110 trillion. Guess how much of that the art market represents? 3%. The truth is, in our contemporary society, art's economic impact is a footnote in our global economy. It's not what it used to be because times have changed. People aren't religious as before, and we're more invested in technology, finance, energy, and manufacturing. Art is an optional luxury. The economy functions perfectly well without it. Thank you very much.
Highlands captured that morning made humanity weep. The lifeless body of little Ilan Kurdi lying face down on the beach with nothing but his little red shirt and shoes on. Within 48 hours of this publication, donations to the Swedish Red Cross campaign increased by 55 times its normal amount. The news channels stopped using the term migrant situations and started using the term refugee crises. And the UK and Germany offered financial aid, which before it hadn't done. One image, 0 words, moved more human beings across the continent than a decade of UN speeches. Proof that art maintains its political power in our contemporary society. Good morning, esteemed judges, fellow debaters, ladies and gentlemen. My name's George, and I'm sorry to say, I'm here to talk politics. Our opponents have tried to defend the motion that art's lost its influence, but as our opening speaker explained, art has played a key role in society since the Neanderthals because it's the greatest form of communication the human species has. Why? Because it reaches the heart before the mind. Therefore, it's no surprise that throughout history, art's been used to satirise, criticise, and brainwash, both in propaganda and in protest. As Picasso said in Theories of Modern Art in 1945, painting is not done to decorate apartments. It's done as it's used as an instrument of war for defence and attack against the enemy. Without turning debate into a history lesson, how can anyone deny the political impact such as masterpieces such as The Slave Ship by Turner in 1940, depicting the Zong massacre, where enslaved Africans were thrown overboard from the crew members because they wanted to claim their insurance money. Or Guernica, Picasso's 1937 monochrome scream of horror, depicting the suffering of the people in the Spanish Civil War and its darkest moments.
Point of information. So, what is the equivalent of art nowadays that still has an impact that those arts before had?
Well, since 1945 is the time of contemporary society. That's when Picasso made his claim, and these still have massive influences on how we, for example, with the slave ship with Black Lives Matter, massive influence. Thank you for your information. Art remains the most powerful voice of protest in our contemporary society, and artistic statements are still being made in very subtle ways. On February 28th of this year, Volodymyr Zelensky upset the White House when he decided to turn up to the White House with a black military top to show solidarity with his countrymen at war with Russia. This deliberate artistic decision sent more soft wartime messages than any other stiff suit could. Now, censorship. If art were politically impotent, there'd be no need to censor it. It's precisely because art dares to defy, disrupt, and dismantle authority that it's been muzzled or deleted. After the bonfire of books in 1933, Goebbels and the Nazi Party turned their focus onto art and started developing an inventory of 16,000 works of art. This was called Entartete Kunst, or degenerate art, because they didn't align with Nazi values. In our contemporary society, art is still being censored.
You stated about censorship, which is true. However, nowadays censorship is used more because of the personal values of the politicians rather than to transmit an idea. So, yeah.
I'm getting onto that right now. In our contemporary society, art is still being censored for the very same reasons, and art is still being imprisoned, tortured, and worse. Who remembers the Kremlin's outrage at Pussy Riot's 2012 performances, which directly challenged Putin's leadership? Some band members are still serving sentences in exile, while others have been added to terrorist lists for expressing their ideas through song. Ultimately, the act of censorship only validates our political power. It reveals what those in power fear the most. Authoritarian governments do not fear spreadsheets, they fear artists. If art lacked this edge, it would be left to decorate apartments like Picasso said. In conclusion, our opponents will argue that it's now commercialised and diluted, but mass visibility amplifies influence. When art circulates through contemporary platforms, it reaches audiences politicians can only dream of. Unlike a speech, art lingers. You may forget the detail in the manifesto. You may forget the wording of a policy, but you always remember the poem that resonated with your anger. You'll always remember the image that made you weep. And you'll always remember the words and melody of your favourite Christmas carol. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Teams, thank you. You have 2 minutes to prepare your closing arguments. Teams, thank you. I have the speaker for the opposing team.
In conclusion, honourable judges, debaters and audience, our team has carefully demonstrated that in our contemporary society, art has not lost its social, economic and political influence. Its influence has mutated, expanded, evolved, and become more pervasive than during most historical periods. This morning, our opponents have argued that art with social media loses its overall interest. Arena stated that the Guernica has lost influence. We have in fact demonstrated that Guernica still holds warfare and its expression still earning millions to this day. We were interested by the point that Alexandra made about a contemporary society, but contemporary society spans from 1945 till now. But how can emotion really be defended when we showed that all the social media fast-moving trends are bad when it's the time most people are affected by it? Another form of art could be making a movie or a TV show. If Netflix publishes a documentary about World War II, don't you think that would impact someone? I would like you to sit and think, if you saw someone suffering like World War II, you had no idea what the experience was like, you would leave impacted, feeling, I feel bad, I feel really changed by watching this. That is what I think art really is, being moved by something. I would like to conclude by suggesting that art never had more reach, more money behind it, or more immediate political consequence than it does right now. Far from losing influence, art has simply shapeshifted. Art no longer needs galleries, marble halls, or wealthy patrons as it did in the past, because it lives in our phones, on our bodies, in tattoos, and in the streets where we all live. Thank you.
Firstly, thank you for this wonderful debate. Through historical evidence, global statistics, and relatable personal examples, my team and I have conclusively shown that today's motion holds true. Art has lost its social, economic, and political influence in our contemporary society. We have provided strong and recent evidence to make this true. Our opponents this morning have mentioned that it does still have influence. Daisy quoted that it is the mirror of society. Yes, a society where influence has been lost, where content is short form, where things just don't have the same meaning they once did. Marek stated that 70 million euros are raised on art expositions. But as Sam has demonstrated, all of the money that is raised on our art forms only 3.1% of the global GDP, which is nothing. And lastly, George has said that, quoted Picasso, that paintings are not to decorate apartments. However, in my case, Yuan clearly demonstrates that is the one only thing it does, decorate. No one sees the value anymore. And censorship, it only aligns with the politicians' personal views. They don't combat global issues. And ultimately, famous playwright Bertolt Brecht once said, "Art is not a mirror held up to reality, but the hammer which reshape it." Yet today, the hammer is gone. And so with it, our ability to shape our future. Thank you.
Two amazing teams, I think, can agree, and great debating once more. We start to learn really what all the hard work's about that all the schools here put in. Now we're just going to have a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back for the results. Those results, they're waiting intensively. The results and the prize giving. In the meantime, could I ask both teams just to stay where you are? Okay? Thank you very much. 5 minutes.
año que participamos en esta iniciativa que pone con mucha ilusión Kate. Es un placer participar. La verdad que he estado escuchando justo la final y me he quedado realmente sorprendido del nivel de oratoria, el nivel de la capacidad que han tenido los alumnos a la hora de expresarse y explicar sus argumentos. Creo que es una gran iniciativa que os animo muchísimo desde los colegios, desde aquí, dar las gracias pues a los profesores que hacen un trabajo también en divulgar este tipo de iniciativas, en motivar a los alumnos para que participen. Yo creo que tiene que haber más iniciativas como esta en los colegios de Mallorca y dar las gracias sobre todo a todas las empresas, todos los colaboradores que hacen, todas las personas que hacen posible este evento, esta gran liga de debate, y animaros a continuar. Yo creo que el debate es aprender a debatir, aprender a dar diferentes opiniones y en las aulas, en los colegios, desde vuestras edades. Es muy importante para cara en el futuro tener personas críticas, con opinión sobre muchos temas y tener estas habilidades para poder hacerlo. O sea que os animo muchísimo a que sigáis este camino, y muchas gracias de verdad a todo el mundo que hace posible, a todas las empresas, a todas las organizaciones, entidades, a Palma Pictures por reunirnos aquí, a todo el mundo por participar.
Muchísimas gracias, Antonio. Seguimos el coche inglés. El señor Grau nos ha ofrecido un pequeño regalo a cada uno de los participantes hoy, todos los colegios. Entonces, señor Antonio, si puede estar aquí, por favor, puede pedir al equipo con su tutor de la Academy para subir, por favor. ¿The Academy? ¿Dónde estás? Melanie y su equipo, por favor, vas a recibirlo por parte del señor Antonio Grau. Gracias. El siguiente, el equipo, por favor, de ahora, también con Javier, el equipo de los 4 participantes, no todos, los 4 del equipo de 4 que han participado como equipo. Javier, contigo también. Gracias a... ¿Puedes estar aquí? Súper bien, gracias. Ahora Belver, ¿dónde está Sean y tu equipo magnífico? Sean, sube por favor. Un poco de aplauso, por favor, para ellos. Han hecho un gran trabajo también. No están en los finales, pero lo han hecho un gran trabajo. Y, por supuesto, BIC, James. Y ahí detrás, Green Valley, el equipo, por favor, con Eva. Lots of photos. Foto. Aquí detrás, ahí. Por aquí. Perfecto. Y no para olvidar a los demás. Montessori, por favor, el equipo de Montessori. Chris, tú también, por favor. Y luego Mallorca Internacional, por favor. Sally, también. Muchísimas gracias. Un poco más acá. Y, por último, pero no para olvidar, San Cayetano. Por favor, con Tracy. The teams at the back, I think it's a good idea if you stand up. Otherwise, we're not going to sit here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I now call on Sue Worthington with her two judges? Wow, yeah. Ollie? There we are. Now this is the first of the important lot of results and prize giving, so I would call on the lead judge for the debate for third and fourth to start by giving please your fourth place position, but before she does so, can I please ask our sponsors, Mallorca, I was going America, Imperial Properties to come up please. Mark Ratcliffe, I know you're there somewhere, with Finlay and Portia. Thank you. Mark, just before Sue gives away the secret, would you just like to say a word? I hope you're glad to be up there.
Very glad, thank you very much. Just for myself, it's absolutely heartwarming to see the power of argumentative speech in a world where so many times emotions are given away and arguments are trying to be won by a simple text message. To listen to a slightly younger generation than me being able to win over an argument with educated, thought-through speech is wonderful. So thank you very much. And over to the prize giving.
Thank you to Imperial Properties. Please stay there. Over to you, Sue.
Huge congratulations today to the teams that took part. You were fantastic. A very important and special day for you. It was debating at its best, as far as we were concerned. It was really strong points, what we score on, our presentation, the facts, were they relevant, and the key points and what have you, and how convincing they were. The vocabulary today was perfect, and it's surprising when we came out of the room and people were talking and they all agreed that it was a very, very powerful argument today. All strong and confident. I think also not only thanking you as the teams and all the hard work you've put into it, but to thank your tutors because they've done an amazing job with you and given you an amazing opportunity too. May you long go forward with it and become more powerful and more persuasive as you go along. Despite our own views, we had to decide who we were most convinced by on their motion. And today we voted for the best debater and obviously the third place. But for the time being, we must announce the best debater. And do we have a drum roll to... Gaia? The best team, if you like, for third position. You were so convincing, both motions. I mean, you really did convince. We had different views when we were in the voting room there, and we finally decided that the winning team today would be... Do we have a drum roll? Paul told me to say that. Is Mallorca International School.
Can I ask Jason Moore of the Mallorca Bulletin to join in representation, please, of the trophy? Thank you very much. And can I ask... And can I ask, please, for the presentation of the fourth prize? Well, we can mark it, please. You're already on the stage. Thank you very much. The fourth team are over to you. Presentation of the fourth.
Sorry. Yes, so we mustn't forget the leaders up. The fourth team we voted is San Cayetano. So please come forward. Sorry somebody had to come forward and somebody had to come forward, but you're really
Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations to everybody. And now we come to a rather special moment in our time, which is the Best Debater Prize. It's almost become one of the stars of the show, hasn't it? Everybody's really... The team's great, but the best debater might be better. I've asked a couple of the ex-debaters to join us just for a moment. Unfortunately, Daria from Queens is not too well, but Ennio Campali, ex-San Cayetano, would you like to please come forward? And Ennio has just been, as an ex-best debater of the season, to say just a few words about his thoughts on the matter, on the art of the debate and how it's affected him.
Thank you. It's been a while since I've come to a debate, and I really enjoyed seeing such a lively explanation. In general, I think we all sort of understand why debating is important, but we don't really see the transcendence throughout our history and throughout time. For example, in Roman history, debating oratory, it was a very well-respected art. Even today, those arguing for the fact that art no longer has that same importance recognize that debating and oratory still has value. A simple symbol, the hand sign. We all know that this means Italian. The interesting thing about these hand signs is that in the past, we didn't have this great technology. We couldn't hear as clearly. And so the people at the very back of the room, they looked at the hand signs, because with just a simple gesture, you could express so much. That's why we call it an art form. And nowadays, I in my life have seen how debate has evolved, and how debate has helped me understand both sides of an argument. Usually, we get prompts that sometimes are a bit complicated to defend, and this helps us to understand that maybe not everything is just black and white, bridging the gap between two extremes. I think that's the best explanation as to why debate has the value it has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we would like to have the presentation of the best debater. And our two ladies over there are the only ones who know the winner. So Nikki, would you like to announce the winner for us?
So congratulations for the best debater goes to Daisy. Daisy Mungo.
Hold on. Daisy nearby now. This is the Daisy near number.
Bit of confusion there. Wrong, right, Daisy, wrong school. I'm from MIS, Daisy.
You hold it right in. It's all you as well as the school. There we are. You got it? The best laid plans. Sorry about that, Daisy, or the Dave, wherever you are. Sorry. I've now asked Paul Aubrey, please, to come up as lead judge for the debate for first and second place. And could I ask Lucy Gorman to come up, please, who is Director of Consular Services for Spain and Andorra.
Because I'm going to talk for ages. I'm just going to talk for ages. Guys, could you come down the front, please? Because I'm talking to you guys who did that wonderful debate, first and second place. Come so I can see you and I can see your eyes. Because one of the things that they did extremely well was look into our eyes. Yeah, so tremendous, all of you. I loved your humour. Yes? Who loved the red underpants? Yeah? I really loved your humour as well. I'm not here to talk about politics, but you did. It's really, really good. Bringing humour into the debate, really, really excellent. Your start and opening, excellent. Who remembers the mirror? The hand with the mirror? It was copied by the other team at the end. Yes, it was so impactful. It was copied by the other team. Really nice, beautiful structure, really worked well. You guys over here, what a wonderful opening, Alex. Yeah? Really centred herself in here, looked at us, and spoke to us. Yes? Also used visual cues. Who likes visual cues? Yes, I love a visual cue. We've got a little pile of artwork over here, which is really excellent. Sam, I loved your posture. Yeah? Who had Sam? I'm very confident. The shoulders went back, looked into the room. One little thing, my friend. This hand in the pocket. Okay? Yeah. Apart from that, brilliant. Yes? Lovely looking at the audience. Very strong voice. All of you actually impressed us. Sometimes people waver. Yes, lose their voices. None of you did. Really super stuff. Okay? That's why it was so difficult. That's why it was so difficult. Who enjoyed the debate? Yeah. Good. Can we give them a round of applause, please? You deserve every clap. Yes? Superb. Please take away. That was excellent. Okay. So, I need to give out the prize for the best debater for that debate. Okay? Where's that drum roll? That's not loud enough. Come on. And by a very small margin, Alex. Come here. Well done. You ready? What's that? I forgot the what? I go in the middle? Oh, yeah. Which girl in the middle? No, I don't. No. I don't make mistakes, love.
Only sometimes.
So friends of mine for 20 years, Lucy's said that I made a mistake. No, but we're all good. Right, so... the debating competition 2025 winner is I'm not giving it out until it's loud, is Queens.
While we're getting organised with photographs, Janet and Marlon of the winning team, where are you? I know you're here somewhere. Yeah. The tutor with the mostest, Marlon. Off you go. Janet, I don't think most of the people here know it, but it's your last year of the debates. As assistant head of the school, would you like to say a few words? Just a couple of words. I know the Welsh are like of speaking for half an hour.
She's right though. I think that any person who can stand on a stage like this in front of anybody deserves everything. The fact that they have to learn 2 speeches, yes guys, 2 speeches, they all favour one than the other. They don't know what it is until 20 minutes, half an hour before they actually take off. And even just saying a few words like this, it's not easy in front of your peers. So I'm naturally thrilled that Queens have won, of course I am, but I'm absolutely thrilled for everybody else who took part, because it's without the teachers, without the heads supporting debating, it would not get off the ground. My first debate was in 2009, I think, against Belver, when Albert Lodoven was the headmaster, and it's come on fantastically well. So thank you, Kate, for really pushing that for us all. And everybody there, thank you for attending, and the judges, of course. So yeah, thank you.
Can I ask Fabian, please, Fabian Keynes, the club manager of MCC, to come up? We have actually got 3 lots of special prizes for the winning team and for the best debater. First, would I ask you, Fabian, to come up and give your prizes, please? Queen, would you like to move forward, please? Fabian, would you just like to introduce yourself? I don't think a lot of people here know you.
Hello everybody, a warm welcome and thank you for having me, especially Kate. Thank you to all the debaters for really showing your best. It was a special Tuesday morning, and that's why we came up and add a very special prize to the winning team today. So you are going to be members of the Mallorca Country Club for 1 month in the coming year, whenever you want, and to that we're going to have and host a masterclass with the former coach of Carlos Moya, with all of you and your teachers. So please, I will get in touch with the teachers. We're gonna find a date, and congratulations.
Can I? Can I ask Antonio, please, Antonio Grau, Coach Ingles? I understand that you have special prizes to give out to both the winning team and the number 2 team. Who's got them? They have them already. I do beg your pardon. Thank you very much. And is Izzy Newman here, please, from Wave Radio? Wonderful. This is one of our last presentations today. I'm sure you'll be glad. Izzy used to be one of our team for many years, for which I thank her, and she's abandoned us because she is now setting up English radio, Wave Radio.
May I?
Well, it wouldn't be right if I had a microphone and not said a few words, if that's okay. What passion. I've never come across so much fantastic passion and pace. And I think that's what impacted me so much, as well as the incredible content. Personally, I think the amount of work that has been put in this year with your content, there was another fellow member of the audience we were discussing about, it is, of course, it's important to be standing, and the visual aids and the hand movements, and as Paul, and you take up on that every year. You listen to the advice. I love it. The amount of people that counted, we could see that, fantastic. But at the end of the day, it's what is in it, what you are debating and what gets put across. And with your passion and your pace, that impact was just overwhelming, personally. So congratulations to all of you. But obviously, the debating team here who have won, we would love to invite you to come into the studio for a live interview, which we'll record and you can keep. And I'm already nervous. And also, so I'll present you with a certificate for that. And Daisy, who is the best overall debater, I believe, from Mallorca International, we would love to also and equally invite you into the studio for a live interview. I'll hand back the microphone and give you the little awards.
Thank you very much. Well, we're almost finishing, and believe it or not, we're almost on time. It's quite amazing. I'm just looking around this stage here with so many wonderful people on it, the youngsters, the people that have tutored them and everything. But there's one person that stands out among all of them, and we haven't told him about this part of the programme, so he might not be happy about it. But anyway, we're just going to go ahead, and this is a prize that the whole of the debates team, not just me, I'm here representing the debates team, wanted to give to this wonderful person that you all know, and he's called Paul Aubrey. When I think about Paul, and we talk endlessly about who's going to do what and how we're going to present it, the word that always comes to mind is